We're going to take a film breakdown video analysis of three issues that the Browns offense continues to struggle with, and they continued to struggle with yesterday against the Dolphins in that loss. So the first one on the list, 47 passes, way too many, and I don't think anybody would argue with you making that point.
Well, if you look at this play, right, you're going to see he just doesn't see the middle backer there in cover two. It's kind of like a Tampa 2 where that middle linebacker is going to go, but he doesn't drop immediately, so it tells me more he's just getting some depth on his drop. But it's kind of the Tampa 2 concept where that middle linebacker is going to get great depth. He's got to be able to get over top of that middle linebacker and before the safeties. But the point being is that, this is not a down and distance where you need to throw a vertical. And there's so many things that the Browns are doing that are setting this young man up for failure. And the big one is throwing the ball 47 times. I understand he's only had one touchdown and 7 interceptions, but throwing the ball 47 times is not setting him up for success. They need to be able to run the ball, which they have not been able to do. They need to find playmakers where, they have Judy, but they've had other injuries and people who have either are not a part of the game plan or not getting touches or not getting open. But 47 times with a backup quarterback doesn't make a lot of sense, especially on second and medium or second and manageable. Those run pass downs that we like to say as coordinators, well, the Browns, that should be a little bit more run. And people say, well, they can't run the ball. Well, they won't run the ball. That's the difference. And I understand they can't, but they have to continually do that so they're not getting this linebacker is getting 20 yards downfield because he knows it's his pass. This is not a good recipe for success for a backup quarterback.
All right, so 47 pass attempts, too many. And number two on these three recurring issues, something you kind of alluded to, that they just do not have a run game.
We're going to see this first one. They're going to be a toss here. There's no movement. You see the line of scrimmage stays right there. Miami guys all have their hands on. They're pushing the offensive line back. And then the same thing here. You're getting no vertical displacement, which is a fancy way of saying, I don't say it that way, they're not knocking anybody backwards. And I remember my offensive line coach always say vertical displacement and all these football terms. There comes a point where the offensive line has to knock people backwards. And when I went and watched these guys for 2 camps with Callahan, and I'm not blaming anyone, but there's got to be, being an offensive lineman in the NFL, just like a defensive lineman, it's got to be miserable at times because they have to continuously be physical and block. And the Browns aren't doing that right now. A lot of the same guys, for some reason, they're not getting any movement on their double teams. They're making things hard. Their hands don't seem in the right spot. Their footwork's not as good as it was. This is something they need to address. And I'm not necessarily saying they need a new offensive line coach. They need to address the issues they have, and that's the inability to get movement up front.
All right, three of the third recurring problems for the Browns. The offense is putting the defense in play perfect mode. So take us through that.
Well, there's a play Delpit gets it. So this is a zone read with a bluff, and the bluff means the guy that usually comes in motion, Jonnu Smith. You'll see it again. The guy right on the edge by Myles Garrett, he releases to the flat, and if it was a normal zone, he would either come across the formation or block Myles Garrett. Well, this is the kind of what the next step is, triple option, right? So they're going to read Myles Garrett, and then Huntley can either throw it or pass it. And Delpit plays this very well because Delpit's got to also has some run responsibility here. He's just misses. But the point is that the Browns have to play perfect defense because the offense is so poor and the special teams is so poor this year that the defense, which I thought played outstanding yesterday, they were gap sound, they flew around, they had some issues, but they played really good against an offense that's very hard to prepare for in a short week. So again, this is the play by Delpit. I thought he played it very well. Again, Huntley's, this is triple option. He could hand the ball off, he could run it, or he could throw it, and he decided to throw it, and Delpit just missed. But this is the idea of complementary football is what wins games. And the Browns offense has not done their part this year along with special teams. The defense, for the most part, has.